Okay, let's unpack this. Today on the deep dive, we're looking into something really fascinating happening right here in Amsterdam.
Hmm.
It's about the Spaarndammerbuurt and the new Havens area. Now, officially, they're meant to be one single undivided neighborhood, a Burt.
Right, on paper.
Exactly. But a recent study digs into this and reveals some pretty significant social and economic divides, almost like parallel worlds side by side.
Yeah, it's quite the paradox.
So our mission today is to really understand this, look at the challenges, and maybe find some, paths towards better connection, especially for you if you live there or just care about how cities work.
Absolutely.
So let's start with the basics. What exactly are we talking about with these two areas? Tell us about Havens first.
Okay, so Who's Havens?
Mm-hmm.
It's described as paradoxical.
Mm-hmm.
It's brand new, for starters. Very high density of housing, but mostly owner-occupied homes and the more extensive rentals.
Which is, pretty unusual for Amsterdam's housing approach, historically focused more on social housing, right?
Exactly. It almost feels like this sort of upscale island. Architecturally, yeah, it tries to connect, warehouse-style buildings, new canals, giving nods to old Amsterdam.
Okay.
But here's a key thing. It doesn't really have its own shops or local amenities. It relies heavily on the older Spaarndammerbuurt next door for that.
Ah, okay. So reliance, but maybe not integration.
That seems to be the issue.
Okay.
Because when you look at the social side, the gap is really stark. The study basically describes Hood Havens as largely a white neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of young families, high earners, highly educated people. The research calls them cosmopolitans and upwardly mobile types.
Right. And Spaarndammerbuurt.
Well, Spaarndammerbuurt, even with some gentrification happening, still has what the study terms as significant underclass.
Okay.
You see higher rates of poverty there, more loneliness reported, greater need for social assistance compared to Hood Havens. It's a very different picture.
Well,
And experts quoted in the study even talk about a compatibility problem. One school director literally said that kids from the two areas just don't naturally meet or mix.
that quote about the kids, that really hits home, doesn't it? If they're not mixing.
Yeah, it suggests the divide is quite deep.
So that brings us to so what does this division actually mean for you, the residents living there? What's the kind of the bigger impact of this fragmentation?
Well, the thing is, this local situation, it isn't just local. It's really a small picture, a microcosm of a bigger duality we're seeing across the Netherlands and, frankly, in many cities.
Right. This isn't unique to Amsterdam.
Not at all. And it's more than just rich versus poor. It digs into divides in education, culture, opportunities. It can lead to these parallel worlds where people just don't understand each other's lives anymore, and social cohesion really suffers. But the study also points out something important. For residents with maybe lower education levels, their immediate neighborhood is absolutely vital for social contact.
Their main network, yeah.
Exactly. So when gentrification happens rapidly and the focus shifts to, the buildings, the stones, rather than the people, those community ties erode. And that hits hard.
And you mentioned loneliness earlier.
Yes, the study specifically notes a rise in severe loneliness in the wider Westerpark area, which includes both neighborhoods. So it's a real, measurable human cost.
Okay, so the situation is clear. The impact is serious. Let's move to now what? We need to bridge this gap. The research isn't just pointing fingers. It talks about finding the detussenruimte, that middle space, right, for connect.
Exactly, that intermediate space.
So what are some concrete proposals coming out of the research? How do we actually start building those bridges?
Okay, the research puts forward 5 main ideas. First, they say, strengthen the middle groups. Don't just focus on the richest or the poorest. Look at the people in between who often get overlooked.
Interesting. Okay, the middle ground.
Second, create shared ownership. Make the neighborhood a kind of collective project, an agenda that everyone feels part of.
Make it ours, not just yours or mine.
Precisely. Third, and I found this quite insightful move beyond just talking rich versus poor. Instead, frame it as scarcity and abundance. How can we share resources and skills? Fosters more of a mutual exchange mindset.
I like that framing. Scarcity and abundance. What's fourth?
Fourth is about cultivating strong Eigenheit, that sense of identity or bonding capital within existing groups first. The idea that you need that strong foundation within your own group before you can effectively build bridges between different groups.
You secure yourself before reaching out. Makes sense. And the fifth?
The fifth is about facilitating space for the soul, creating actual places and opportunities where people connect on a deeper, just human level. seeing each other as equals, regardless of background.
Space for the soul. Can you give examples of what that might look like?
Yeah, the study explores some interesting scenarios. Things like maybe creating places for practical spirituality, or setting up buddy systems, say, between residents and asylum seekers, or organizing activities that deliberately bring kids from both neighborhoods together. Real practical stuff aimed at that human connection.
Okay, those are constructive ideas. Now, let's try flipping this using that TRIZ approach. The first step is often what not to do. If we want connection, what should residents in Spaarndammerbuurt and Houthavens actively try not to do based on what this research suggests?
Right. Thinking about the pitfalls. Well, first, definitely don't just stay in your own isolated bubble. The study suggests connections won't just happen magically. Even the park, physically separating them, often acts more like a buffer.
So don't assume proximity equals connection.
Got it.
So
Exactly. Second, it's crucial not to let the, let's say, organizational skills or resources of one group dominate everything. For instance, maybe the highly organized Houthavens residents focus heavily on sustainability initiatives.
which are important,
But they might overshadow equally pressing issues like poverty or loneliness in the Spaarndammerbuurt. So don't let one group's agenda unintentionally sideline others' needs. Resources and attention need to be shared, or at least balanced.
right. Avoid letting one set of priorities dominate, and a third don't.
And perhaps the biggest one, don't approach community involvement solely with a what's in it for me attitude. The focus really needs to shift towards collective well-being, looking for mutual benefit and exchange, not just individual gain.
Avoid the purely transactional mindset in community building.
Precisely. It has to be about more than that to bridge these kinds of divides.
Okay, that gives us a lot to think about. So for you listening, maybe reflecting on your own neighborhood, whether it's here in Amsterdam or elsewhere, do any of these what not to do behaviors ring true? Do you see them happening around you? Something to consider as we all think about how to build genuinely connected communities.